to the fat and give you our gut reactions on all things pop culture, film, TV and theatre. We talk the legends in the creative industry and those on the rise. We game old school. We do all of this, and a whole lot more. Like, subscribe, and get involved. Join Lance Dean, Anthony Nielsen, and the Outcast Creative.
Fab stuff. Happy Friday. And I'm not normally on a Friday evening, at least not doing an industry interview in any case. And trust somebody to call me as soon as I go live. Should turn my phone off. So I'm professional. So tonight's guest is industry interview number 62. Can you believe it? It's 62 interviews since I started doing these in July of 2022. We've got the 2-year anniversary of the channel coming up next month on the 14th of July. And I'm hoping to hit 5,000 subscribers, just coming up to 3,500 now. Boy, have I worked hard to get to those. So my guest tonight is director of photography, cinematographer, someone I've known in the industry for quite a long time. We first met because he got involved in a fan film that I found on the internet that I heard was being made. And at the time, we were doing a blog called The Naked Filmmakers. It wasn't on the Outcast Creative channel. It's kind of my first dabble of stuff with YouTube, actually. And we were finding 5 projects that were on a crowdfunding platform, film projects, and we were plugging those projects every week. And we picked 5 of them, and we always picked one as number 1. And one of the ones we picked as number 1 was called Predator Dark Ages, which was a Predator fan film directed by someone who's now a good friend of mine, Jimmy Boosh, who is also coming on the channel Monday week. So I'll be interviewing James on Monday week. But his cinematographer, director of photography, was none other than Simon Rowling. Hello, sir.
Hello. How are you? You all right?
And that's a recap of how we first met, in case you forgot.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
And the first time I think I met you in person was actually at the screening in Soho of the Predator Dark Ages.
Yes. Yep. I think that's like 8 years ago now. Something crazy.
God damn. Is that,
yeah.
Is it eight,
and I think the shorts had about 16 million views or something mental.
Yeah, that's right. It's had an absolute. In fact, you know what? I'm going to get the link for it and put it in the chat now, so we can, just get you 20 more or so. Yeah, it's got 15 million, and even the trailer's got 2.2 million. I mean, that's nothing short of phenomenal. And the funny thing is because of the new restrictions that Fox and stuff have put in, you couldn't make that fan film now.
Oh, right. Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it's half an hour long.
Right.
And
I think it's just under, actually. It's just under half an hour.
Yeah, 27 minutes. But I think their new restrictions now are that they won't allow you to do, because somebody's Aliens fan film got cancelled. And they were inspired to do that film by your film. Right. And Fox came down on them like a ton.
Oh, I did hear that. Yes. Yeah.
And Michael Biehn was going to be in it, and it got canned. So anyway,
we've been quite lucky.
Yeah. It's a very good film. If you haven't watched it, you should definitely check it out. So Simon, what I do with all my guests is I ask everybody that comes on a sort of similar set of questions, slightly tailored towards each person. And this is just to get a bit of a narrative of you with films and shows and that kind of thing. So just give me the first answer that comes into your head. There's no right or wrong answer. Can you tell me what was the first film you remember as a kid being taken to on the big screen?
I would say probably either Spider-Man or Hook.
Which Spider-Man? I'm assuming not the Peter Hammond one.
Yeah, I don't know which one it was, but I just remember dressing up in a Spider-Man outfit. So, yeah.
Or Hook, the Steven Spielberg.
Hook, the Steven Spielberg one. But I think it was maybe Spider-Man. Maybe Spider-Man. Don't know.
Okay.
I remember the old series of Spider-Man, which was really weird. Like there were like people in judo outfits. Don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah, very psychedelic colors.
Yeah, there was like people getting hypnotized and stuff, and I remember watching that on VHS on repeat. Yeah.
So can you tell me what was the last film you saw on the big screen?
The last one was the new Planet of the Apes.
Did you like it?
Yeah. I mean, you get sucked into that monkey world, don't you? It's pretty. I'd say it's better than Avatar in that regard. In terms of it's sucking you into that kind of. It's CGI, but you just forget about it, and you don't even realize it's CGI most of the time.
I've not seen it yet. I've seen all of the others in the series. Yeah. I've not seen the latest one yet. Haven't unfortunately had the time to go to the cinema lately. But even though it's literally just up the road from me, is there a director? Because when I ask a director this question, I ask them about an actor. But in your case, because you're a DOP, is there a director that you haven't worked with yet that you'd really like to work with?
It's probably quite a lot. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't put it. I couldn't say.
If a magic genie appeared in front of you now and said, Simon, you can work with one director tomorrow that you haven't worked with yet, but you can only pick one.
Villeneuve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good choice. I've met him. He's a really nice chap. So, is there somebody, a DOP that particularly inspires you, that you look up to as a DOP?
I think obviously I probably relate more to Roger Deakins' work. I think he's always. I know it's a cliche, but he's just. No, it's his work is something that I've always really liked. And I don't. I'm not saying I try to mimic it, but I just like the way he uses and light and dark and shoots silhouettes, and and he always just goes with the story rather than what looks nice. He's just a very clever man.
He really gave the landscape of the Mexican border its own character in Sicario.
Oh yeah. Which I think they shot that in a car park for all the gun stuff.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. I'd love to do that in the UK in Asda car park.
You might not get away with it here. Name a favorite film of yours that you watch at least once a year. You just whack on Sunday afternoon. I'll stick that on today.
I don't ever have that, Lance. I've got a 4-year-old and a wife who probably will not let me do that. But I'd probably say.
Okay, go back to the time before the wife.
I don't know. Maybe. Okay, yeah. It used to always be Big Lebowski, Terminator 2, and Gladiator. They're like my top 3.
I think didn't the three of us, didn't you, me, and Bush go and see Terminator 2 together at the IMAX when it was re-released? I've got a vague recollection.
Maybe. Yeah,
I think the three of us went.
I have seen. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think he organised it, and I think we went and saw. You remember they kind of re-released it, re-digitized it, touched a few things up.
It was, I got it on Blu-ray after that, and it's just almost too sharp now. It doesn't look like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It does. I don't like it when it loses that grain.
Yeah.
A lot of people have complained about the new Aliens, and I guess that's a topic maybe we can come back to. Do you have a film in your collection that you might consider a guilty pleasure? That can be a broad term that can mean many different things to different people, of course.
Yeah. I'd probably say, I was a massive fan of the original Judge Dredd, and I unfortunately I haven't seen this new one, the second. And even though everyone's like it's amazing, I still haven't seen it. I just haven't got around to it.
I was an extra on the set in Shepperton in that.
I know because I did model making. I know a lot of people who worked on that film, who did all the models and stuff.
Right.
And, I was a big Sylvester Stallone fan growing up and Arnie fan. So any film of theirs, I was always big fans of. And Judge Dredd was one of them.
it's such a shame that they've never. We did a special stream about it. It's on my channel where we talked about the two Dread films, and it's a shame that they cut all the violence out of the Stallone one. It was all shot, but that's why the action scene at the end when all the bodies are coming out and then it's sort of like nothing happens. It's because they cut all the shots of them all getting like chopped up and shot up and censorship for you. Last one of these quick questions. Do you have in the last 20 years, what would be the television series that for you would be a standout piece of work where you've gone, oh yeah, I'd like to work on a show like that?
Oh, it's Band of Brothers. Brothers. Hands down, mate. Hands down.
Good choice, sir. I've got it. It's literally just here, right around the box. It's just out of reach, around the corner from the screen.
I rewatched that. Well, that and it's not a show, but every Christmas I usually watch all the Harry Potters.
I do Lord of the Rings every Christmas.
Yeah, I need to do that. I haven't. They're quite long films. I don't tend to watch them that often. But Lord of the Rings I'm going to do this Christmas. But Band of Brothers we did after watching Masters of the Air because I was like, I don't think it's as good. And then I watched Band of Brothers. I was like, and it wasn't as good. Yeah,
I interviewed Dale Dye, who is the military advisor. He was on a couple of weeks ago, and he worked on BOB and Pacific and Masters of the Air.
Yeah,
and we asked him very carefully, what did you think of Masters of the Air? Because we've been reviewing it every week, and we started out good, but we weren't too happy with it in the end, Captain Dye. And I said, but you don't have to answer the question. And he went, You ever heard the word woke? Do you know what the word woke means? He kind of went into this big thing about it was made by the wrong people and it was too woke, and he did not hold his opinion back.
Yeah, I think as it got out of just runway stuff and got a little bit more messy in terms of story, but they're just glazed over so many really nice little storylines.
Yeah,
they just glazed over stuff, and I know they're trying to cover a lot. But it's kind of like, I'd rather have half an episode and, one episode split into two and just follow each of those characters fully rather than just 5 minutes of each.
Yeah,
and then you come back and then, they're back again. They're alive.
Yeah.
And, it's...
No, I agree with you completely. My constant criticism of that show was there was not enough emotional tissue.
No,
connecting the storyline.
That's what it lacked. And I think it probably didn't help being made during COVID, I think, and there's a lot of amazing CGI in that. I was blown away with all the planes and everything. And considering they only had one, they had to build a cockpit from scratch as well, and then they only had one working plane or something like that. They did a lot. They did a very good job making it. But it was just in terms of like anything, if it's not there in the script, it's not going to be there in the final thing.
Well, apparently it was there in the script, but they just cut huge.
Right.
There's huge amounts missing because we had a guy that worked on the show with us, and he couldn't believe how much they'd cut out. And
really,
anyway, but today's about you, so we won't go down a whole Masters of the Air narrative. But I'm sure we haven't heard the last of that, and we are doing a Band of Brothers special every Sunday. We're on episode 4.
I've seen. It looks great.
Yeah. Well, when we do episode 10, we want quite a big panel. So if you'd like to pop on it for 20 minutes and talk about why you like it so much when we do that last one, that'd be great. That's going to be one Sunday in July, I think, by the time we get there. So let's go back to the beginning. And there's already a couple of questions in chat, and I have seen them. I'll bring them up with Simon in a sec. Let's go back to the beginning. How did you get started? What was the gateway drug, if you like, into all things technical and being interested in cameras? And when did you first pick up a camera? I suppose should really be.
Well, I was already in the industry, so my degree was in model making because I saw it all started. I think when I watched Tremors, and I was watching the making of Tremors, and then and I always grew up watching loads of films. Like especially World War II films because my dad loved those. So we would watch a World War II film, like ones that most people don't know, and
not just Bridge Too Far on the Longest Day.
No, but they are amazing films. But Bridge Over the River Kwai, Ice Cold in Alec. We watched like all the westerns as well. So it was like just basically westerns and Second World War films. So
what a great dad!
Yeah, with my dad, and then I ended up watching like behind the scenes of Tremors and behind the scenes of this is when behind the scenes was a big thing with the DVD
Mm.
or VHS, and it was on Blade 2, which I really love that film. I think it's the animatronics, the Jaws and everything. It was amazing. So I watched that and the behind the scenes of Tremors. I was like, I really want to make those creatures. And so I just looked at what degree did that, which was model making. And the best one in the country apparently was Bournemouth.
That's right.
So, so I went. I went straight from school to there. I didn't do a gap year or anything, and I got in. And so I was there for 3 years, did that, and then did loads of work experience every summer, and worked on like The Wolfman, which was pretty cool, getting work experience on that.
Yeah.
And a few other films I did work experience on, doing sort of helping with props and stuff. But yeah, I did model making, and then eventually moved into props. And then someone said, well, there's more money in special effects and it's funner, it's more fun. So I was like, okay. So I ended up kind of getting a little bit more time on the floor, as they call it, doing special effects. And most people start in the studio workshop building stuff anyway. So it's a gateway kind of way into special effects, doing model making.
Yeah.
I did model making, then into special effects, did like bullet hits, pyrotechnics, water, wind, rain, some visual effects units on the Narnia film. Really like amazing life experiences, kind of, doing different jobs. But I was offered a job to maybe do to start a production company, and I did that with my cousin, and we started doing some commercials and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I know nothing about this. And he's like, I thought you were in the film industry. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know anything about it. But my mum at the time was a photographer, had a little studio, did family portraits, etc. But she had a 5D Mark II, and obviously that had video mode and was full frame. And so I got into it that way. I was like, oh, Mum, can I borrow the camera? We've got to shoot this weekend.
That was when there was. Do you remember that light bulb year when suddenly people realized, hang on a minute, we could shoot a feature film on this camera?
Yeah, I mean, I was shooting events really, and got into filming a lot of fashion. Mainly, I did events. Was my way into the industry. Was filming events, rich people's events, and then and runways and behind the scenes at Fashion Week and things like that. So I did a lot of Clark's online commercials, things like that, all on the 5D. And then eventually I left the production company, and I was like, I've got enough of a reel. I want to kind of do this full time, because I was producing there and shooting. And then I was also moonlighting, doing some special effects work. So I was doing a bit of both.
Well, before we get onto your work as a director of photography / cinematographer, let's talk a bit about the effects stuff, because you've also crossed paths with various people I've worked with, which is quite interesting. Because if we look at, and you can look at Simon's IMDb, I think I've already got it in the blurb below, but I'll whack it up in the chat for anyone who hasn't seen that. So on the special effects work, Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treasure, which was obviously a big franchise.
That was quite a fun one, yeah. We did a big storm, and in fact we did waterfalls on that, which was, we filmed salt with a bit of talc in it, because there was an island of waterfalls, and so we filmed this salt being poured with talc, and I was the one doing it, and then they were shooting it at 1,000 frames a second or 2,000 frames, and then when you play that back at normal speed, that then looks like water, which is pretty mad.
That's an interesting.
That's before CGI.
One of the ones you did, before CGI got really good at doing water, which took a while. Yeah. One of the ones you did was Born of War, and my director of photography from The Journey, Malte Rosenfeld, was the DOP on this.
Well, I have an interesting story about him then.
Go ahead.
Well, we were there one day, and they had this kind of, I don't know what it was, Al Qaeda base or something. I've no clue, because I've never seen the film. but
it's okay.
They had a base. They had a base in. I mean, I did a few days on it. I was a special effects trainee, but they had this base, and basically there's this huge explosion, and they were doing this in an air hangar. So it's not outside; it's in an air hangar. But obviously, so we rigged it, and so there's two stories to this. There's me from my perspective, and what happened to the DOP. And so I was there. They put deck cord around the entire structure, which was the set. Me and the supervisor, we hide behind the gas canisters because they're metal and they're obviously the safest thing.
Yeah.
And they press the detonating cord, the det button, and then it just goes. And I've never seen this in my life. I literally saw a mushroom, like I saw the wave, like the air move from the shock. Because it was inside an air hangar, I actually saw the weight, like the air move like that from the detonation. It was absolutely incredible. And so that happened. I saw all that, and as I was sort of hiding in the corner, and then I find out afterwards that the DOP was running backwards with the actors with the camera on his shoulder. He then trips up as these explosions are going off in front of him, with behind the actors. He then trips up backwards, misses the final explosion because he's tripped up, and then someone has to drag him out of the whole air hangar, and so he got out alive, but he didn't get any footage. So we had to go back like a week later, and they rebuilt the whole thing. We re-rigged it all, but then they didn't get the fire engine there to put out any fire, so we just called it a night because they're like, you need a fire engine here to put out the fire, so we can't blow it up. So anyway, apparently a month later, they redid it all and reshot it all, and it went okay, and he didn't fall over.
Yeah, no, Malta was a very good DOP. I did enjoy working with him, and he had his wife and newly born child on the shoot with us as well.
Oh,
so
right.
You'd be able to relate to that. I had to make him sign a waiver when he wanted to bring his kid up on a mountain. That he wouldn't charge us if the kid fell off the mountain,
Right, okay.
Well, just I wasn't going to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you also worked on a couple of other things I've seen: Snow White and the Huntsman, St. George's Day. So, when you said you were working in when you went from kind of model making, prop building, special effects, so as a special effects trainee. This covers things like explosions and
it was usually on the smaller companies like St. George's Day, it was rigging bullet hits and things like that, building bullet hits, etc., getting things ready. On the bigger films, like the only one big one I did was Snow White, which I think I just did a week on. Then that was actually just pre-lights or special effects testing or something. I can't remember now. But that was just lugging around gas canisters.
Right.
But on the smaller, I always liked working with the smaller companies because they give you a lot more to do. You're basically a technician. You're not really a trainee. So I was we were rigging hundreds of bullet hits on St. George's Day. And the funniest thing was I did Ashley Walters. I did Top Boy. Right. And you did
2 episodes of Top Boy.
Yeah. So we did like a squib hit, an explosion coming out the back of their head. And I was just assisting on that. And so someone gets shot and then it comes out and it was like banana and bread and a little gas canister rig kind of thing. So we do that and then we blow up. I think we blew up a car or some kind of fire on the car. I can't remember now. And so I worked one night shoot doing that, or 2 night shoots doing Top Boy season 2 it was, I think, or season 1. And then the following week I was also signed up to an extras company, and then I was an extra on Top Boy.
Right.
And then fast forward 10 years or something crazy, I then end up shooting Ashley Walters' first short film. So a bit of a circle moment doing that.
Yeah. He's a really nice, I've met him. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's really nice. Yeah,
very down to earth. Kind of knows what he's doing, knows what he wants. And
that was his first short film, his first thing directing ever. And now he's done bits and bobs, and he's done a couple of things that aren't out yet, but I think they're going to do really well.
How was it working under Frank Harper?
I mean, he wasn't my boss, so I don't really. He was.
Oh, fair enough. Because I have also met him. I think that's the only film he's directed. He might have done another one, but I can't remember if I don't think I've seen it, if that's the case. So the transition from special effects to actually getting behind a camera, did you work under a DOP first, like as a first AC or anything, or did you just make the leap?
Yeah, it's just as I said, really. It was more the case of I literally just worked at the production company that I set up, filmed a lot, and then I was like, well, I've got a reel, and I've been a trainee before. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to be loading vans and working for someone. And I've really been head of a company in a way, running a business, you know, dealing with clients and producing and doing budgeting. I've got other life experience under my belt. I think I can have a crack at this. You know, I wasn't expecting to start to go into TV drama or features or anything at that point. I was just trying to get on the ladder of, can I make it on my own, doing corporate stuff, commercials, things like that. So, and that's how, and a lot of people get into, you know, the higher end stuff via music videos, and then they meet directors from the music videos who then do commercials.
Yeah.
I didn't do the music video route. I was like, I'd rather do short films because my heart is in like the narrative rather than music video world. And so I just did loads of short films and learned that way, really.
Yeah, because I think, you know, I say this a lot when I'm doing a talk or whatever to students and that kind of thing, that it's the more feathers you can have in your cap, especially if you want to move on to one of the big jobs like DOPing, directing, producing, production manager. If you've done 5 other jobs before that one, you have a better understanding of how the people under you function and what they need to do. And that's only a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, whereas I've seen people jump straight into, I find it amazing that some of the people that have been given big franchises to do, where they've had very, very little time, what I would call time in the trenches.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to dwell on that too much, but
no,
it's, you know, there's a lot of lucky sausages out there.
I mean,
who haven't done their time as it does. And a lot of people agree with me. You know, a lot of directors, I think directors can get away with it a little bit because it's more, they can get that support. You know, a really good example is Kate Herron, who's amazing, and she did Sex Education and then did Loki. You know, if you look at how many credits she's got, she hasn't got that many, but she had an amazing pitch, came in with enthusiasm, and then with that support network and a really good DP, they made Loki season 1. So it just shows you, directors, I think, can get away with it if, you know, they've got that passion and that not like.
Yeah, and Sex Education was a great show. So she had a good hit there to start with, and I dare say a good comprehension of how to run a TV show. I mean,
I think she did a couple of episodes in season 2, so it was really on its feet. But, you know, I think, and obviously with Loki, you have a large budget and the support there. But I think, you do have to be pretty lucky.
How did you and James Boosh, or the Big Boosh as I call him, how did the two of you meet to come to collaborate on Predator Dark Ages? Tell me how that all came about.
I can't remember how we met, but I know that I met him a couple of times in the pub, and then basically he was telling me that he had an idea and access to a Predator outfit. Right. And then I was like, oh, right, cool. And then he told me the concept, and I was like, I'm in. I'm just in. Just we'll do it no matter what. And I was like, I even know a guy who does stunt riding, and he's got 6 horses, and he dresses as knights,
right?
And he does jousting. He does jousting, yeah. And then I was like, oh, my relative's got some land in the countryside. I was like, oh, we'll hit them up. So yeah, it was just a mixture of me being enthusiastic and wanting to make something cool, and also, but I think the important thing is, we both have really high expectations. Yeah. Like there's a lot of people I work with who over the time are doing lots of short films who just don't have that same level of like, they want it to be absolute perfection. But then there are people who out there who do. And those are the people who I will always work with again. because they really, really care. St. James is one of those people.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely. I mean, they say on a film set, you know, you've got that three-way pie, which is speed, quality, and time.
Yes.
And, you know, you can have two of those three things, but you can't have all three of them.
Yeah, I mean, and I've been told that even when you get, 50 million more for a film, you get more tools and more crew, but you still want more time, apparently.
And you get bigger problems.
And you get bigger problems. Like, you might have all the tools, but then you need those tools to make the film happen. So there's a reason why the budget's like that, because you need those tools to make the film happen. So I think you're always up against it. I mean, I did a film, and we can get around to talking about it, but I did a film which I'd never thought I'd do. I did it in 11 days or 10 days. I mean, I've done a shorter one. I did one once in a week, but that was like a kitchen sink drama. But that was literally just run and gun kind of filming. That's like super low budget, doesn't count. But, a proper film with decent actors, that's, trying to do that in 2 weeks. I only did that, I just want the challenge. I want to see if I can do that. And I want to, one, work with the director, and I want to work with those actors, and 3, prove that films can be just as quick as TV. Because I always get poo-pooed about that, and sometimes I'm not getting the opportunities for TV jobs.
Let's talk about before we come on to sort of some of your individual other film credits. And how many days was Predator: Dark Ages, just out of interest, to shoot?
8.
8, yeah. So that's a pretty tight turnaround when you think about the complexity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about to do another found film actually, in about 8 days. It's a DC fan film,
right?
About Red X. I mean, I don't really know the character that well, but
I vaguely know who they are.
Yeah, and I don't think much has been done about him before. But this is 20 pages, so that's going to be about 20 minutes, and that's done in 5 days. So yeah.
Well, let's take that as an example, because I just want to talk through your preferred working process, which I think is always interesting to hear. It's different for everyone. And it also will be different depending on the director and the producer that you're working with and how they work. But let's say you have your first meeting with the director, you hit it off, great. The phone call comes, Simon, I'd like you to shoot the movie. Great. Presumably the next step at some stage is that there's a production meeting where you sit down and you go through the script.
No,
that normally really happens.
And it doesn't. No.
You talk me through what happens.
I'd like that to happen at some point.
That's my next step normally, but I mean, tell me.
I'd like to go through the script more often with people, but it doesn't happen. I think we're not on the last few I've done. It does. Yeah.
So, okay. So if there's no script go through, is there? You've got to have some sort of production meeting.
Yeah, there's production meetings, with HODs and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's probably early, middle doors, and then one maybe after a recce kind of thing. There's not too many, as much as I'd like. I think it just, for me, it's just about that relationship with the director. And so, I'll have my own individual conversations with costume, makeup, less so makeup, but various people, production design especially, there's all those individual conversations. But for me, obviously, as long as I'm getting the information from the director what he wants, and we both agree on the mood boards, because I'll do hundreds of mood boards for a film. I now, because of Shot Deck, which is really helpful, and I've always done it before Shot Deck, but for every location I'll do a mood board if I can.
Is that I don't know if that's something you can share screen and show us, can you? Or if you have it to hand. But that's to explain it to anyone who's listening, Shot Deck is like a sort of almost like an AI design package.
Do you want me to go on the website or show my mood boards that I've done?
Yeah, let's go. You've got some on your website, I believe. Let's have a look.
Oh, I can share this. Hold on. So I do present, share screen, and then
Cheers from California. Various people popping in. Don't forget this interview, like the others, will stay up. So if you can only pop in for a bit, that's fine. Watch it at your leisure later. Independent film director Oliver Hollingdale is here. Hello, good to see you, mate.
Is this showing up or not?
No, you've got to present. When you click on the present button,
you
then select the window from your desktop that you want to share, and then it should come up as a box next to you.
I've clicked Finder.
No. Is there anything on your website that we can show? If not, don't.
Let me just do my. Can I share mine? Oh, let me just share my entire screen, and then that's easier, isn't it?
Yeah, we can do that. And then you can make it go full screen.
Can you see this now?
No, because there's nothing been presented yet, so I can't. There's no box for me to click on, unfortunately.
Okay.
The technicals of modern technology baffle us once again.
Well, I've definitely clicked share screen, so I don't know what else to.
All right, don't worry about it. Let's keep talking through, because I don't want to waste time. But you'll do more mood boards. Let's say that the director, and probably under the thumb of the producer, needs to shoot, let's say, 6 pages a day, which is not unheard of.
Yeah.
Let's say that there's 3 scenes in the typical day. And I remember conversations I had with Malta about, if we've got 3 scenes to shoot and one of them's the most complicated, we were generally of the agreement, let's do the complicated one first. And get it out the way, rather than leave it till the end of day in case lots of things go wrong and we run out of light and run out of time, and then we have to go over and it goes over to the next day. Would you have a similar way of working, or?
I don't think it's usually a case of shoot the hard bit first, and it usually ends up not being that.
I did find that was often the case, that for whatever reason you couldn't.
It's more for me based around lighting time, the time of day outside, and in terms of do I need to? If the bigger scene is literally much bigger scene, then I need to do more lighting. And if we haven't had a prep day lighting, pre-light day, then they can pre-light in the morning whilst the other sparks stay on the set. So we'll pre-light ahead in the morning, ready for the big scene in the afternoon. Also, people can be rehearsing in the morning who aren't in the scene for the afternoon, who aren't in the scene in the morning. So it all depends, to be honest.
I get that it's a movable feast, and
I don't think there's definitely no one set rule. And whilst you can have 3 pages to shoot in a day or 6 pages, if the 6 pages is just all at a table, then it's fairly simple. Obviously, if it's war begins, then the 6 pages war ends. You're like, well, fuck, that's that's a long.
Yeah, that's a whole.
That's a few months, So it's and even though you're like, oh, it's just a fight, it's like, well, people spend a month filming a fight, or a couple of weeks filming a fight scene, or with. When I worked with Scott Adkins, he was like, this can't be a day, this is 2 days. So we had to squeeze one day with loads of drama and loads of actors and a huge amount of scenes and dialogue into one day from 2 days, just to allow the fight scene to become 2 days. So it just shows people who know their craft, they know that fight scenes take ages, because, you want to go again, you need to sell the hit.
Yeah.
And people, want to take their time and not get hurt.
Yeah, I've had quite a few friends work with Scott Adkins, and I get the impression that's a great set to be on.
No, he knows his stuff for sure.
Yeah. The first thing you did with him, would that have been Vengeance?
No, I wasn't really on the set for that. I just did some establishing shots.
Right.
Jesse just reached out and said, I need some extra shots. And that was it. And we just went round and filmed it quickly around London. No, it was on. It was just the very random job that I got, which was Legacy of Lies, and I got that job through Facebook. I applied through a Facebook job thing I saw.
Right.
And they said, "Have you done looking for someone who's done a spy film?" And I'd just done a Chinese spy film shot in Suffolk, in 3 weeks, and I don't think anyone's seen it, but I got some nice bits for the reel and some nice photos, etc. You can go on my website actually rather than IMDb. I've got loads of stills on all my projects on my website.
This is Simon's website now. The details of which
if you click on the project, it'll take you through like the smoking one.
This is it, isn't it? Legacy. Yeah.
Then on all the projects there, you see loads of stills, trailers, and footage from the film. So
it's a great website, by the way. I remember when you were shooting this sequence. Great location.
That was the biggest scene or the hardest scene to shoot, and it was day one. Not like that's the worst day to put the biggest scene, because it was the only scene with the techno crane, and I'd never used the techno crane, and it was lots of oneers, and it was stressful to say the least. It was raining and not sunny, which isn't what I wanted.
As DOP, what's the smallest technical team you've had, including sparks, grips, ACs, the lot?
Oh, probably just one from each department.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm doing this next short with. Hello?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, mate. We both froze, and I was checking my internet lights, but they're all on. So it must have been in either StreamYard or YouTube.
It can be as streamlined as just me and a focus puller, to be honest. But usually, worst case, I get someone who gaffers and sparks, and that's it really.
And the biggest team numbers wise,
probably when I did Legacy of Lies, because they tend, people work for less in Ukraine than the UK, so they just have more people on it.
Right.
They had lots of lots of trucks and assistants for the assistants, and there was, just probably when I did Legacy of Lies, but then that was still pretty tough.
How big a fan are you of kind of, because now we go with digital, of course, and digital, as you know, changed everything. And I suppose in a way you were kind of stepping into the DOP seat as digital became a thing. And of course, it's been amazing. It's been amazing for the indie film scene, as a lot of us, Predator Dark Ages wouldn't have got made if only Super 16 cut-off bits from Kodak in the bins were still available. That's how people used to make shorts back in the day.
Yeah.
But it also now advances with the dynamic ranges of cameras and things, and the blacks and so on. It's changed everything in terms of you can get away with a lot less lighting.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've changed the way, and it's not so much about cameras. I mean, for me now, it's just kind of like, what are you shooting, and is that the right camera for the job?
Yeah.
I was really against reds, and now I own one. So that's one thing to look at. That just shows how things have changed. I owned an Alexa Classic because I love the grain in it, and it was because it's not the cleanest of cameras. And it was 2K, but the dynamic range was great. The image was lovely. It's just bulky as hell.
Yeah.
And I went from that to a Komodo, tiny little red. So, and the image out of that is great. Even though I found that a little grainy, but now I've got a Red Raptor, and that's clean, really clean.
So how many cameras do you own at present?
Oh, just the Raptor, yeah.
Just the Raptor. Yeah. But you heard that phrase, "Beware the fetish of kit."
Yes, yeah, I do. I mean, I have enough to do, shorts.
Sure.
I have enough to. I get some kit on films as well. But yeah, no, cameras have changed, but I think ultimately you can just with lenses and grain in post and everything else and grading, you could shoot on the crispest of cameras like the Red Raptor, which is 8K, and make it look 16mm if you want to. So it doesn't really matter. I think for me it's more what is the right tool for the right job.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And what are you shooting on gimbals? Are you shooting handheld? Are you shooting a lot of daylight? Do you need that extended dynamic range? Is it a lot of low light? What is it? Controlled lighting? Like I'm attached to one horror film and it's all internal at night, so it's going to be controlled lighting. So you don't need something that's that has a really high ISO, like the Venice dual ISO. You don't need to have 3200 ISO. You could be at 400 ISO because it's all controlled lighting. It's like in here, this is all controlled lighting. So you don't need that. You don't need as much maybe dynamic range, but you probably want a camera that's cleaner in the black levels if you're shooting a lot of stuff in them to make to keep it creepy. So
Sure.
it's just depends on the job, and whether I own a Red or not doesn't mean I'm going to always use it for the job.
No, I did want to talk about this short Cognition.
Yeah.
With Andrew Scott, because I had a good look at it earlier today, and man, it looks amazing. And it felt very much like this was a pitch for a bigger TV show. I don't know if
I'm not going to say anything other than it might be.
Yeah, well,
not a show, but more a film. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
there's a film. There's a script out there, and people are looking at it. Let's put it that way.
Sure. I mean, I'll let the trailer play. Obviously, one of the things, and there's Wolf Kahler, of course. Many people know him from Raiders of the Lost Ark. He also does the speech at the end of Band of Brothers.
Yeah. That's true.
I know my actors. But obviously, there's a fair bit of green screen here, but there are some practical sets. There's a lot of CGI post-production work, and
there's actually not that much green screen. The only green screen is the desert scene,
right?
And where we put like 5 tons of sand into a green screen room. But the rest of it, unfortunately, they rotoscoped everything in post.
Right.
So there was a lot. Like one room in particular, we shot it on location. They paid for the location, and then they just changed the entire thing in post, which was absolutely. I mean, I could have lit it better. Do you know what I mean? If that was the case.
Well, this was kind of my question, and you sort of started answering it before I asked it. With obviously various elements of this put together in post, quite significant elements of it. Lighting it, knowing how it was going to match later, must have been a nightmare. Like you said yourself, you feel like maybe you could have lit some of it better. I mean, I have to say, I think you're underselling yourself. I think it looks pretty incredible.
It was probably almost 8 years ago now I shot that, I think. I mean, it was pretty close to Predator when it was pretty close to when I shot Predator, and it was technology still, we didn't have a stereo tubes. We didn't have the technology now in lighting has changed so much since back then. We were wrapping gels around tubes loads of times in that big Coliseum area, and I mean, I would probably say we might use a volume potentially for some stuff, which I think would sell it nicer. I mean, there's so much that I would change. There's some things I'm like, I don't think I would even do that now, and I love it. I love the look of it in the from the trailer. There's things in there. I'm like, oh, I wish I did that more often now.
Well, we always,
it's a bit like Legacy of Lies. I think I shot that. I underlit that, not underlit it, but I just kind of went quite harsh with some of the top light and things like that. And now I think I try to I call marveling it out a bit, as in I just try and make it a little bit more pleasing for like the more general public kind of thing.
Okay.
I kind
rather than overplaying the artistic hand, so to speak.
Yeah, I kind of I now try to, I think, just give everything rather than just like, I try to fill in the shadows more, and I try to sculpt it more rather than just kind of going, here's one light, that's it. I try to give everything texture rather than not lighting that much, if you see what I mean.
No, yeah, I understand. So you worked on several feature films. I think it's 10 to date. You've probably got a couple more coming up by the sounds of things. One of those was, I believe it's still to come out, is the Duchess feature film, directed by Neil Marshall.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if we're allowed to show the stills from this because it's
so the page on my website you can, because they've been published, those photos.
Hang on, so let me just grab that back up again. So this is the section for it, but that doesn't bring. So if I click on this,
you can click on both. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
These ones have been published by Variety or whoever it was. Yeah.
So you've got a couple of great actors in there, and I'm a big fan of Sean Pertwee because his dad was my favourite Doctor Who. Been lucky enough to bump into Sean a couple of times and happen to know he's one of the nicest guys in the business. So this was your first time working with Neil?
Yes, yeah, and funnily enough, I met him during lockdown when I was doing what you're doing now.
Right.
On my Filmmaker's Guide to the Galaxy, we interviewed directors and ended up mainly being a few actors, but it mainly being cinematographers in the end, because it was easier to get in touch with them. But Neil's, because I knew Neil through an acquaintance, producer friend of mine, and so he came on, and then I obviously just sent him my reel and bits and kept him up to date. And he lost his DP, and they needed someone, and he liked what I did on Legacy of Lies.
Right.
And so I guess, when you do a job, it kind of, I don't think I always thought, oh, this job is your breakthrough job.
Yeah.
But it doesn't ever work like that. And I've learned that.
Yeah.
It's always like, just say yes to a lot. And then at one point someone will go, oh, it's that one that I saw that made me want to get you for this job,
Yeah.
So like Legacy of Lies kind of got me, I suppose, this. And then I think, it's kind of, that's how it worked, really.
So I've met Neil, really nice guy. We're talking about doing something together, funnily enough. And he's also offered to come on. So I'm trying to pin him down for a date for an interview, which would be great. And he was on my friend's channel last year.
Yeah.
What kind of speed does he like to work at? How many setups were you doing in a typical day? And I appreciate that's not set in stone on any given day, but how many setups were you doing for this?
It's like it
on average.
3 or 4 scenes. It just depends how long a scene is, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah.
He doesn't. I was quite surprised, to be honest. He's very visual, and he also. So we agreed that we liked all the same old films. We both liked the same sort of thing, so we got on really well.
Yeah.
And related in that front. But yeah, in terms of shooting, not much prep. I just sort of tried to kind of understand what he was after in terms of how he wanted to shoot it. But he's very much the kind of mindset of let's get on set and then work it out then.
Right.
In terms of we'll obviously roughly say, well, they're going to be around there and they're going to be around there. And then I'll discuss, well, what grip equipment do we need for this?
Yeah.
Because I need to know in advance if I'm going to pre-light something, where I need to put the lights. So obviously I need to roughly know where people are going to be. And so he'll say, well, they'll roughly go here, they'll do this here, they'll do that there. And that's all I really need from a director, in prep. I personally don't really like shot listing that much in prep, because Stephen Murphy even agrees with me on that. And he told me that. He said, you don't know until you're on the set, until you're there with the lighting, with the actors. The actors might sit in a corner the entire time. You might, it also depends on the style of the shoot, completely depends on the style of the shoot. And so with Neil, we kind of just did our shots or shot lists when we were there on the day.
I like to personally have a shot list in advance, so I know what the minimum is I need to get to complete the scene, whilst working in an organic way, knowing I can chuck it out the window if something else presents itself that's better.
I agree. I mean, I'm a massive fan of prep. I do a lot of prep. Even if it's not writing a shot list, like on Lord of Misrule with William Brent Bell, we had discussions for hours about, and I was like, okay. And then at the end of those 2 hours, it would be like, okay, can we now start talking about the shot list? And he's like, oh, I've got to go, man. So it's like, oh, see, it would be always, we would just get into a flow of discussing ideas and techniques of what we want to shoot and how to shoot it. And I think I started to bring into that film a list of rules. And I talk about this in British Cinematographer magazine about a list of rules. If you have your list of rules, then that's going to help make your film individual.
Right.
If you just go in with a general shot list, a general let's just try and shoot it and get out, you're not going to make anything special. You have to make your rules and then try and stick to those rules.
So when you say rules, you mean rules for that specific project that will cultivate its own almost unique blueprint shooting style, effectively.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You can have rules, obviously, for camera movement. You can have rules for lighting and rules for anything, really. But obviously, for me, it was like, don't move the camera unnecessarily. Let's not push in all the time like most horror films. You know, slow pans rather than tracks, because a really creepy pan like this here, that's creepy as hell. That's a lot creepier than a track following someone. Do you know what I mean? And
this has got proper Wicker Man vibes.
Yeah, and it was just kind of. I mean, I actually have never seen Wicker Man, so if it's got Wicker Man vibes, great. But I've never seen Wicker Man. And
well, just I'm not so much your shooting style, but the content of the story, certainly.
But it was, it was also kind of like, how can I light this, and make it feel creepy, but not like your normal horror, really darkly lit, And there's just lots of rules about, one rule was just, how do we shoot this with the least amount of coverage? Like, as in really putting that editor into a corner, going, you're screwed now, mate. You've got to use this take, But often I'd be like, can we go for a close up, please? Because I don't really I think the wide doesn't work. I think we need a close up, So yeah, it was. At times we lost our footing, and it did get a bit. Let's just get the coverage, but you then look at your list at the end of the day and go, oh, come on, let's get back on track. Let's get back to the style we wanted it to be.
I mean, just looking at that trailer, it had a very, I can see the style you were going for. It had a very fairy tale vibe gone wrong.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the opening was very much, we wanted it to feel like Midsummer Murders, lovely summer day.
Meets what's the film, the Spanish film that Del Toro did, Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes,
it felt like Midsummer Murders meets Pan's Labyrinth, and it had a love child. That was.
But yeah, I wanted it to be warm and cozy and sunsets and everything else, and we were blessed for that festival for literally 4 clear days with a really low winter sun. It was amazing. And then, really sort of cozy, small interiors, and I'm actually shooting on these same lenses in a week's time for this short.
Let's talk about lenses a little bit. And I'm going to give you a time limit on that. So here's my sound timer. There you go. Because I know DOPs like to talk about lenses. But there is a phrase that goes round, and I think there is some truth to it. You can have all the great cameras you like, but if you're shooting on rubbish glass, you're going to get a rubbish film. Is that true now with the digital age as well, or not?
No, I think you can have very pristine glass. I think now with post you can do. I mean, put it this way: you can distort stuff in post to make it look more anamorphic. You can get pretty clean glass and then detune it so then it looks more softer on the edges, and then you can put another filter in the front which gives it an anamorphic look. And they did that on that Apple TV show that I kind of got into, the what's it called now? All about like the fraternity kind of clubhouse in the 50s. Trying to remember the name of it now.
Oh, another one you mean, but I haven't watched it.
So like, you detuning lenses and everything else. I'm not a big fan of clean lenses, but when I have shot on, say, Zeiss Supreme Primes, I do like them. They are nice. I've shot them on a second unit thing for a Tom Felton film that's coming out, and I shot.
He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's lovely, and I also shot the whole of Jeepers Creepers on Supreme Primes. But they're clean lenses, but they've got a nice, really nice look to them. So I think it's just the right like, again, Lance is the right tool for the right job, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's it really. And if you want something to look very modern and clean, go for modern clean glass. I
don't know how many Jeepers Creepers films there have been. I've only seen the first one.
I've actually never seen any.
I mean,
and I made one.
I think it's fair to say that this wasn't extremely well received, but I'm sure it's nothing to do with the photography.
No, the team behind it, I think the crew on set were amazing, and a lot of people. It was shot right during the second lockdown during Christmas. So it was
that was 2021 or whenever we were.
And we put it this way: we lit about half a square mile outside to do all night exteriors, and then they turned around and said, "It's a bit cold and chilly. Let's just shoot it on green screen." And,
really?
Yeah. And they were like, "It's just taking too long." I'm like, "It's nighttime outside. What do you want me to say? It takes time to get into the middle of a field with actors and light it all, And so they just shot like a whole graveyard scene and everything on green screen. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it being inside, and it meant I could use a dolly and a track and a jib, and the lighting was easy inside on a green screen. So much easier. I agreed with them. However, that's okay if you're doing a Marvel film, but not if you're doing, I'd look at photos on my website, by the way, because these are all really bad photos.
Okay.
Because if you're doing a low budget kind of £4 million film, £3 million film, and you don't have the visual effects department, being thousands of people working on it, and it's going to look like Avatar, then don't do that much green screen.
Yeah.
And they were also trying new technology. I think I don't know if they were doing Unreal Engine at the time. I can't remember which one it was, but they were trialing some kind of thing that they shouldn't have been trialing. And the best stuff that looks nicest is the stuff that I cut into a little segment on my website, and I regraded the actual end film as well, because they didn't invite me or the director into the color grade, unfortunately. And that's just the biggest sin I think any producer can make. It's just not involved. It's, as filmmaking is a team game.
Yeah, sure.
Not inviting a director and especially the cinematographer to the color grade, that's blasphemy, really, because they ended up making it 2 stops brighter than it should have looked, and it looked like daylight. It looked horrible. I had messages from people going, "Why does this look horrible?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I regraded the Blu-ray, that copy that I got. They didn't even send me a copy of the film. I regraded the Blu-ray copy to make it look nicer, and I then read, which looks I like it how it looks in the reel on the thing on my website.
Yeah,
these are actually the stills from the end of the day. So the digital imaging technician, the DIT, took these screen grabs, and I haven't changed these. So this is how it looked like. This is what it looked like on set.
Right. Which is pretty good, to be honest.
Touched it here. This was just a very strong LUT lookup table so it was a pre-graded look that we went off and used on set every single day. I had a few of them, and this was all of the shots from set. That's how it should have looked.
Right.
And obviously, in the little reel that I've put together, it looks not as contrasty as that.
Yeah.
But it looks pretty close.
This is part of the reel up here.
Yeah.
I'll only show a little bit of it, but
the best stuff on here is actually is all practical sets, and it just shows you practical sets on the majority still are better than green screens, and volumes and everything else. Build it and it will look better. A bit of love and care into it in the real world and light it, and it's gonna pay off. And you watch this scene in the actual film, it looks like they're in the middle of the daytime on some crappy set,
Right.
I just had to I took all the contrast I just took all the highlights down and everything, and the grading on top of grade is nearly impossible. But I did the best I could. But it was a bit of a tricky one, that film.
Did you send a copy of your regraded version to the director so they could have a nicer version?
Yeah, he's got it. I think I sent him a link. He said great job, and he loved the look that we had on set, as you can see from the stills.
Yeah.
We were all really pleased. The producers were pleased, and then bad visual effects and bad color grading. If the audience are going, oh, then obviously kind of a crappy kind of story, they're not going to like it, are they?
No. Well, I'm going to jump into questions in the chat before we begin to wrap up. There's probably one other film I might touch on before then. This is how do you feel about CGI? Has it made movies better or worse? And I guess we could talk about AI a little bit as well, and how you think. I think it's.
I don't think it's made films better or worse. I think the stories, the scripts are the scripts, aren't they? If the script's good, then the story's going to be pretty good. I
think it's how and where it's used, really. And I don't. If a script's really good, but it's a low budget film, and it's clear that they can only afford low budget CGI, so it's like, oh, that's a CGI shot, but you don't mind that so much when the rest of the film's great. But if a film is naff and then the CGI is also naff, it just accentuates all the poorest qualities of the movie.
And also, if the CGI is bad, like with Jeepers, it really stands out and it ruins it for the viewer. Yeah. If it takes you out of if anything takes you out of the film, then that's the problem, isn't it?
Do you have a favorite effects legend, i.e., like Douglas Trumbull, John Dykstra, Brian Johnson?
Yes, the reason I think I got into special effects was Stan Winston.
Stan Winston.
All of his films that he worked on were just amazing. I even got to when I did Wolfman. I think it was one of the last films. I didn't even know of him at the time, but there was a really famous prosthetics and special effects like guru on set. I forgot his name now, but I'm really bad at names. But he was like the lot up there with Stan Winston, and he was.
Am I right in thinking he used to work for Stan?
No, that's James something.
Yeah, like the last guy that worked under Stan Winston is like.
Yeah, no, they've got their own legacy, I think it's called, or
maybe.
But yeah, they did Alien, the Predator films and Aliens and stuff. But no, they no. So there's I forgot his name, but yeah. Anyway, there's a really famous another guy, and I got to sort of be on set with him, which was pretty cool. It was like the British next best thing to Stan Winston.
How do you find the balance? I'm going to rephrase this question slightly, but how do you find the balance between, and I guess this will partly depend on the director you're working with, between you being able to put your creative stamp on a film when you're working on it, as opposed to balancing that with the pressure just to get the coverage and meet the schedule for the day?
How do I balance it? What with versus getting it done?
Yeah, I mean, do you find that on average, do you find that you get to be more or less creative these days? And is there a way to balance that out, or is it just take each?
Yeah, I do get into the kind of let's just shoot it kind of thing, and I think that's why I said the rules for me is really helpful, because you can just keep looking at it, print it out, keep looking at it, and just go, no, I need to try and. And I will sometimes I say things out loud and I shouldn't, but I'll go, it's just too TV. And that was a phrase which is past now, really, because TV's got really good, but it's too kind of just shoot it, I was like, this angle, it's too Doctors, Hollyoaks, whatever you want to call it. It's too kind of mainstream.
Yeah. Too shot and over the shoulder kind of thing.
It's too boring. I want something that's artistic. I want something that's I'm aiming for, and I can put every, like Deacon's, like, or whoever it was said, like every frame should be, every frame should be really thought about and important that you're doing. Don't just shoot because you need to. So I do try and do that. Obviously,
try and expand the narrative with every shot, I guess.
Yeah, but it's also just make sure that every shot looks nice in terms of the lighting. You know, like I've been under immense pressure when I did One Ranger, with a producer going, "You can't do a turnaround. You can't do a turnaround. We're going over the hour. We're going over the hour." I'm like, "It's fine," and like it was going to be like turn around and then they're gonna have a big bright light in their face, and I was like, literally, I can radio Sparks just to tilt the lamp down, let it hit their chest. We'll come in with a bounce. You know, we can do it in under 30 seconds, and I'll make it look okay. Right. So it's just about having quick fixes and finding those results really quickly. Really.
Yeah, I think I know which producer you're talking about instantly. Yeah, all about speed.
Yes, yeah.
With them, all about speed.
No, I'm like my mate once said it. I'm the quickest in the South, but I don't know if that's true anymore. But
we'll see. James Willard's asking, who's your favorite director? And we're not talking about people you've worked with here. I guess we're going back to kind of the Scorseses and Spielbergs of the world. Doesn't have to be one of them, of course. But do you have one in particular, or someone whose body of work you think? I mean, Michael Mann for me is definitely up there. Michael Mann would be one of my.
Yeah, mine. I'd probably say the earlier Ridley Scott stuff.
Yeah,
and his brother as well. To be honest, I think his brother's films probably snitched it. Like I think I prefer his brother's films, to be honest.
Crimson Tide.
Yeah, I mean Crimson Tide. Come on, you know, and it's just all of those films. Though, like I think I've got them on a box set. It was just all those films. They're just incredible, and the lighting in them as well. You know, just the way they shot them and the style to them. It was just all very 80s and 90s, and it looks amazing.
I bumped into Ridley on the street in Covent Garden, which is where his office is, and I begged him to have a picture taken with me, and he doesn't like having his photo taken.
Well, I did an interview with him earlier this year. He was very nice.
Yeah, no, he's nice. He chatted to me about my projects and things for like 15 minutes, but he wouldn't give me a picture. But he was quite happy to stand on the street and talk to me while he was waiting for his cab to turn up. I think he even delayed it so he could talk to me for a bit longer, which was very sweet of him. And you know, gave me an email and all the rest of it. But that's a whole other story. I do want to talk about One Ranger a little bit, because that was the first time I think you were working with. Is it Jesse Johnson directed that, right?
Yes, yeah.
Who's, you know, he's kind of known as a sort of action director predominantly. And funnily enough, I remember, I don't know if it was concerning this project, but I remember him reaching out to me probably about 2 years before One Ranger was made. And he said, "Lance, what action films have you got that can be shot for under $2 million?" And I imagine this might have been one of the sort of things he was looking for. But yeah, tell us how it came about. You ended up working on this, and it was like the shooting schedule and so on.
I mean, it was so the producer Lucinda Rhodes got in touch with me saying, "Oh, I've got this film, and Jesse's directing it," and then I didn't hear anything for a month. I think, and then this was like December 2021 or something. And then suddenly I got a message in January 22, I think it was, and just saying, "Oh, we've now got dates with the actors, but it's really limited. We've only got 10 days. We like one location whilst then going to the other location for the next scene." So we could literally go from one to the other.
I've seen the film. It turned out all right, certainly from a technical point of view.
Yes, I was quite amazed. I said it to Jesse. I was like, "I'm amazed we pulled it off, and it came out so nicely, considering we did it in like 10 days. It was pretty mental."
Yeah, I liked it a lot more than the Boudicca one.
Yeah. I was going to shoot that actually, but I was busy at the time.
I could tell that you had not shot it. Let's put it like that. Well, we're coming up to time. So I'm going to start to wrap things up. Is there anything you want to plug that you've got coming up next, etc.? And obviously, if there are any filmmakers watching who might want to have a conversation with you about a project, you're with Mark Berlin Associates, I think, in the UK.
Yeah, or just email me directly. It's fine. Yeah,
but email you directly. There's your direct contact details are on your website. I can see.
Yeah,
that.
and I'm pretty active on Instagram most of the time, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I'm just, if people have short films and I like the script, I'm more than happy to get involved. I like staying active, and keeping busy. I've got a few films that I'm attached to, but they're all either casting or they're funding or they're ready to go, but there's no green light. And
yeah,
it seems the case more so now than any other year, that there's a lot of things are ready, but no green light. It's
been there so many times, man.
Yeah. So I'm still waiting on a couple of really good projects, actually, with William Brent Bell. We've got some nice ones, really, really, really good scripts. And hopefully those two will be the next two that I'm shooting, which is a horror and a sci-fi.
Is there any other anything else you want to plug while you're here, aside from that?
No, I think
you don't have a book. You don't have a book coming out called My Favorite Red Camera or anything.
No.
Well, when you do have a book coming out, or indeed when you've got another film to plug, you're certainly welcome to come back. You can always bring a director with you. The channel is all about plugging independent creators.
I think I'd love to get onto TV, but I haven't quite broken that egg yet.
It's very in-house production company, and you've got to get in with one of those.
It's very. I think when you've done a couple, then you've proven yourself. I thought if I do films, then I can get into TV, but apparently TV is just as hard as films, or harder. It's changed. I think it's changed now.
Yeah,
it used to be easier, I think, in TV. But
there's more content, so in theory, there's more jobs. But I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more of you, Simon.
Yeah,
I certainly hope so.
Hopefully I'm still being employed this time next year.
You're despite the beard, you're still practically a baby in industry years, so to speak. But no, I'm sure you will be. Well, assuming World War III doesn't break out, touch wood. But the news is quite a scary place these days. Well, look, it just remains for me to say thanks very much for giving up your time to come in and have a chat with me. I know we've been trying to organise this for a while, and I really do appreciate it. I've got one of your collaborators, James Bush, coming in on the 10th of June. So do you want to tell me a James Bush on set story to finish up, just in case he has a Simon Rowling story that he might come back with? I'll give you an opportunity to get in.
The only thing that I can remember, because it was so long ago since I worked with him, and we keep meaning to do projects together, but whenever he'll describe a shot to you, he'll always do it with a soundtrack.
Okay.
He'll always go every time, no matter what the shot is, and he'll do that, and then kind of like move it, and then move the camera and do the music.
Like that bit in that film, Simon, you remember?
Yeah,
that kind of
the soundtrack going as he's kind of showing you the frame.
Brilliant.
He's the only person I know who's ever done that. There you go.
No, that's great. I can't wait to tell him about that. Fantastic. Well, look, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks, man.
I'm going to let you go and get back to your wife and sleeping kid. But anytime you're working on something and you'd like to come on and talk about it, just let us know. And do please share the love. Coming up next, we've got Band of Brothers, the real episode 4. We talked about the missing episode last week, the one that they nearly shot but didn't. This week we're doing replacements. I've got my usual guest panel on, including History Bro. We might have Critical Drinker on again this Sunday. That is at 8 o'clock this coming Sunday. And then the Nielsen ratings, as per usual, next Tuesday. But until then, that's good night from me and Simon. Thanks for everyone in the chat. Thanks for all the supportive comments and the questions. Really do appreciate the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And don't forget, there are 61 other interviews that you can check out, and there's more coming before the end of the year. I'm hoping to hit 100. So on that note, we'll speak to you all again real soon. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.